Alright guys, welcome back to another Raid Shadow Legends video. This is Ali Plays. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about some underrated champions for the Hydra clan boss. And the reason why I'm doing this, I've been seeing a lot of people with very stacked rosters not doing much damage in Hydra. And I think part of the reason is because they auto, and the other part is that they think they can brute force their way through Hydra. But that is not the case, as we have seen. There's not really too many strategies so far. Only Shamal that has been nerfed. But the Shamal teams, the Inquisitor, I'm gonna call them Inquisitor, man. The Inquisitor teams are still viable, but you can only have one unless you have like multiple Shamals. Obviously, I can talk about the top tier champions for Hydra. I'll probably do another video on that, but you guys probably already know, champions like Inquisitor, Mashalt, and so forth. Yeah, you know what's hilarious? I actually did not even fuse this guy yet, and Playerham's already trying to sell me some potions for him. Alright, so the first champion I want to talk about is Yannicka. So you guys already know Yannicka is she's in the clan shop, so she's accessible. So Yannicka is very good for the Hydra, and I think she's definitely underrated. Her A2 ability allows her to place Perfect Veil on herself. So she attacks the champion. She plays Perfect Veil for 3 turns if she crits, and then she gets an extra turn. Let's talk about her Perfect Veil mechanic. So Perfect Veil is going to make it so that she never has fear on her. And then she can actually use her A1 ability where she's going to be an AoE. If she's under Veil, it's going to be an AoE that attacks 2 times and also places Leech. So she can place Leech on all the Hydra heads. And over time, it will actually stack the damage. She's going to be continuously using AoEs. And she is a hard hitter as well. This ability is interesting. It attacks all enemies, will ignore shield buffs, but I do not know if it actually works when the Hydra places that huge chunk of shield. I haven't tested it out yet. If you guys have, let me know down in the comment section. So yeah, she's definitely underrated, and Leech is very viable in Hydra because when your champions attack, they recover HP, especially for War Master procs. All right, so number 2 underrated champion is Alaric the Hooded. So his A1 ability is not really going to be helpful against the Hydra because you cannot decrease the turn meter of the heads. Otherwise, we would just dominate the Hydra. His A2 ability is very good for Hydra. You can attack one enemy and you have a 50% chance, if you actually book it, it's a 75% chance of removing 2 random buffs from a target or attacking. And then he actually has a 75%, well, it's 100% maxed out, of stealing 2 random buffs instead of the target has 4 or more debuffs. So if you guys stack the debuffs up on the Hydras and then they have some buffs on them, this ability was very helpful. And he also has an AoE that places decreased attack as well as decreased accuracy. So decreased accuracy is very important because the Hydra has some annoying debuffs. All right, so next up we have Warcaster. So Warcaster, the reason why I think he's underrated is he can actually place AoE block buffs for 2 turns, and that's a 75% chance of doing so. So if you're able to block the buffs off the Hydra, you do not need to remove the buffs. So block buffs is actually a very viable strat against the Hydra. And it's also on an AoE. And if they actually manage to get any buffs, he can actually steal 2 random buffs from a target on his A1. Very helpful. And he can also place a block damage buff on all allies for 1 turn, as long as the Hydra does not steal those buffs from you. All right, moving on, we have another legendary champion. We have Eleanor, because she is capable of dealing a massive damage against the Hydra heads. Her A2 ability is an AoE that has poisons on it. And she can actually place 2 poisons if she crits. Her A1 is very underrated against this, because she can place HP burn for 2 turns, and this debuff cannot be resisted. So you can manually hit every single Hydra head as long as the 75% chance of a misdirection from the Mischief Hydra head does not proc. You can actually place HP burn on every single head of the Hydra on a basic attack, which is amazing. She also has her combustibility, which deals damage from all poisons debuffs on all enemies instantly. So the thing is though, poison is kind of nerfed on the Hydra, and it's designed that way from the beginning, but it still does a decent amount of damage. But the HP burn strat is very amazing. So she has 2 debuffs that do a lot of damage, and her damage is pretty good as well. So she's definitely underrated. I don't know if you guys have her, but she's one of the OG champions in the game. So hopefully you do. We're going to stick to the same faction. We're going to look at Rowanus. Dude, I don't know why they call him Rowanus. Basilius Rowanus. All right, Basilius is very interesting as well. He's underrated for Hydra. He has a 100% chance of stealing 1 random buff from a target on his A1, and he also has a 100% chance of placing block buffs 1 turn if the target has no active buffs. That's on a basic attack, which you can control. So whenever you feel like you need to block buffs on a certain head, or if you want to steal a buff from a certain head, you can actually aim that, which is very good. He has a triple hit and ignores the increased defense, shield buffs, and block damage buffs, and 50% of the target's defense, so it does do a lot of damage. And AoE that can play stun. Stun is not going to be helpful, but it's still an AoE ability that you can use to boost your damage up. All right, I want to talk about an accessible champion for HP burn. We have Mordecai. So Mordecai is very good. He has a 100% chance of placing HP burn debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. And this is not an attack. So he's not going to get fear placed on him by one of the Hydra heads. And he also plays the increased attack on all allies for 3 turns. That's basically it for him. You cannot decrease the turn meter, so that's basically it. But if you do need HP burn, you have him. You also have champions like Dregstar, Blood Twin, Akoth the Seared, champions like that. But he is the most accessible one, and I think that he is better than Ultimate Gallic for this fight. All right, now we have Kantra the Cyclone. What makes Kantra very good, she has an AoE that attacks 3 times, and then each attack she has a 75% chance if you book it, but it's 50% if you don't, of placing one of the following debuffs for 2 turns. So she has block buffs, that is very helpful against Hydra. Decreased attack is very helpful as well. Decreased speed is very helpful. Weaken is very helpful. Decreased accuracy is very helpful. And heal reduction can be helpful if they steal your continuous heals or things of that nature. So yeah, this ability is very good. You cannot provoke them, but she can actually decrease each enemy's accuracy by 10 for each debuff they are under. And then she receives 4% less damage for each debuff on the attacker. And she heals by 1,250 HP each time a debuff expires on an enemy. And she cannot place provoke on the Hydra heads. And she can actually place debuff on weak hits as well, which is an amazing passive ability. Her A1 ability is amazing as well. So each hit has a 40%, 60% if you book it, chance of stealing 1 random buff from the target. So definitely a very underrated Hydra champion. And she can also increase ally accuracy in all battles by 60, so universal aura skill. I've actually used her on my primary team in the Hydra, and she was very good. All right, moving on, Farrakhan the Fat. So Farrakhan, is he really underrated? I don't know. I don't see a lot of people utilizing Farrakhan in Hydra clan boss. So obviously we all know that Farrakhan has beatdown, which is an ally joint attack. He doesn't attack, but he increases crit rate and crit damage on all allies. His passive ability, he deflects 20% of all incoming damage he receives onto all allies. Which is actually not very good for Hydra because he's going to wipe out your team. I guess that's why people do not use him. If you use him on the easiest mode for Hydra, I think he is viable there. He has a poison and HP burn ability, and he also has decreased defense on his A1. So I guess to a lesser extent, I think in later stages of the game, I don't think people should use him. The Hydra will be doing way more damage. Yeah, this guy has like Snake. Is that a Hydra? I'm joking. Snake. So the Hydra heads will be doing way more damage, and your allies are going to be wiped higher stages. But for easy stage, I would recommend using him. I got 3 more champions for you guys. Obviously, there are way more underrated champions, but I got 3 more, and they're all from this, from the Shadowkin faction. So the first champion I want to talk about is Gembo. So Gembo, people think of him as an arena champion, but he is, if you look at his kit, he's very good for Hydra clan boss. His A1 ability is a double hitter. Each hit steals any increased attack buffs, and the increased attack buff steal cannot be resisted. Each hit also has a 30% chance of stealing 1 random buff. Obviously, the chances will increase if you book it. He can actually increase his own crit rate and crit damage, and he gets an extra turn. And then you can use his AoE ability. So he attacks all enemies, and he has a 100% chance of decreasing the duration of all buffs by 1 turn, which is huge when there are multiple buffs on the Hydra heads. And this effect cannot be resisted on critical hits, so you do not even need to build him with accuracy, which is amazing. That's about it. He does these things, but he does them very well. All right, next champion is Sachi. So Sachi is underrated. She has an AoE attack on her A1 ability that can decrease accuracy. Very important against Hydra heads. She has an A2 ability that has a 100% chance of placing decreased crit rate, as well as Leech. So Leech is very helpful in Hydra heads. And she also has Shadow Ambush, so she places an increased attack buff on all allies for 2 turns and then attacks an enemy. And she also fills the turn meter of all allies by 20% if she crits. The thing about Sachi is her passive ability will not be useful against the Hydra head, so she can revive a random ally with 30% when she kills an enemy. Not useful, she cannot even place fear on them as well. So her A1, A2, and A3 are useful, but that's about it. The last champion I want to talk about is Aboro. So Aboro is actually a monster in the Hydra. So just looking at her passive ability, has 0 cooldowns on it. So she places Revive on Death on herself for 3 turns whenever she receives a Veil or Perfect Veil buff. She does her A3 ability, Ninja Arts. She plays increased crit rate, increased crit damage, and then she attacks an enemy and she places Perfect Veil on herself for 2 turns if she crits. And the chances of that are pretty high because she has increased crit rate. And then once she places that Perfect Veil, she's going to be placing Revive on Death. Definitely helpful, especially for a squishy champion like her. A2 ability is a double hitter. Second hit has a 75% chance of transferring all debuffs from her to the target. 100% when maxed out. And the first hit has a 100% chance of stealing all buffs from a target when attacking under Veil or Perfect Veil. A1 ability, she has a 50% chance of placing decreased defense, and she can actually attack all enemies instead of the targets under 4 or more debuffs. If you guys actually place the debuffs on the Hydra heads, let's say bring in Cantra the Cyclone. She places mass debuffs, and she basically has a chance of placing decreased defense on every single Hydra head while attacking all of them almost every single time, as long as the conditions are met. All right, guys, so that's all I have for you today. Let me know down in the comment section, do you guys see any other underrated champions for Hydra? And as always, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
I'm Tyrone. I need everybody to subscribe to the homie Ali Al Plays, and that's non-negotiable either.